Welcome back to Double Down University. I'm back with you guys with another college basketball prospects video for today, December the 17th. And so I basically show you guys the two games that I'm targeting on the early slate. So in the early slate, I want to target the St. Francis, PA versus Miami, Florida matchup. And I know this game is a pretty high spread at 25.5, but one of the players we are targeting is on the favorites to win. So we're targeting somebody on the Miami side as opposed to the St. Francis side, as well as the Gonzaga versus Alabama game, which is a 1.5 point spread. So let's get into it. So the picks I have for today is the Julian Strawther over 7.5 rebounds, Julian Strawther over 22.5 PRA, as well as in that same game, Mark Sears over 3 assists, and then Isaiah Wong fantasy score over 27.5. And Isaiah Wong over 15.5 points. And as you guys can remember from yesterday, a lot of these are hedge spots with when I'm picking two players with the same, with the two different props from the same game, and you can kind of split them up in different cards. You can put one in one, and then another in another card. So, all right, so let's get into it. So, Mr. Strawther. So, Mr. Strawther, he is a forward for Gonzaga. So he plays the other forward spot. Or he's a small forward, so I say he plays the small forward swingman, and then they have Antoine Watson and Drew Timme that plays the power forward and center spot respectively. So with these guys, I think that the focus for Alabama will be on Drew Timme and trying to stop him and trying to neutralize him. So in that, you need somebody else to step up in his absence to be able to, if he was to get neutralized, somebody needs to step up and fill that role to score or to rebound. So I think today is going to be Julian Strawther. And as we look at his numbers, his rebounds, we had picked for over 7.5 rebounds. So he's hit this line in 6 out of 10 games. He's only missed this line 4 times this year. And as well, 2 times he's had 6 rebounds. So he was close. He was 2 rebounds off in these 2 matchups. And as well as his minutes is pretty good. Pretty recently, he's played a lot of minutes. I know this last game, which is, I don't know what happened this game. I don't know. Yeah, this game's an anomaly. But he plays pretty good minutes, 37, 34 minutes, 24. But he still manages to get rebounds in the limited time that he is out there. So I like that spot for him. As well as I like his PRA as well. That's another thing I'm targeting because I can easily see him going for 14 plus points and 8 rebounds. But I think he's projected to me to get 16 points and like 9 rebounds. So I really like that spot for him. And then Alabama, if you guys know anything about Alabama, they shoot a bunch of threes. So that leads to a lot of long rebound opportunities or just missed shots, contested shots, and they're just a high-octane offense. They are 17th in the country in pace, as well as Gonzaga. They're not really a big pace team. They like to kind of slow it down and kind of play at their own pace, as they're 131st in the country in pace. So I'm targeting Julian Strawther there. And then as well on the other side is Mr. Mark Sears. So Mark Sears, he's kind of like the leader, the captain of Alabama's team. He is out of all the players that they have in their starting lineup, he is the most experienced player because they start 4 freshmen, and he is the one that has, like I said, the most experience on the floor, so he can kind of be their floor general and kind of get them into their sets and everything. As well as the one thing I've noticed with Gonzaga this year is that a lot of teams try to target Drew Timme because he is a good athlete, but he's not a great athlete. He's not super athletic, so they tried to target him by just going at him, driving at him, trying to get him to move his feet and force him into foul trouble. So that could lead to early kickouts, like just driving kicks where he drive into the lane and kick the ball out to either they're one of their best players, who I think is going to be either a top 10 pick or a top 5 pick in the draft, Mr. Brandon Miller. As well as you have Noah Clowney in the post and Charles Bediako, as well as Javon Quinterly coming in. I don't know if sometimes he starts and sometimes he comes off the bench. So those are a lot of assist potential for his teammates as well. I've recently listened to a press conference with Nate Oates, the coach of Alabama, and he kind of talked about how the last game against Memphis, they done a poor job of trying to get the ball in the post and let the big start to get going. So I really like this spot for him. And even I look back, dating back to last year, and he has hit this number or pushed this number in 25 out of 35 games last year. So he's always been a pretty good assist guy. He hasn't just been a scorer, but I will also, hedge to his assists with just his points, just in case, he decides to he wants to score today instead of pass the ball to his teammates. So that could be a hedge spot too. You can put in another card with a lot of these secondary props from either Julian Strawther or Isaiah Wong. So let's move on to Mr. Isaiah Wong. So with him, he has a really, really favorable matchup. As you can see, the spread is super high, so they think that they should win by a lot. But I like him in this spot because, as I touched on yesterday, a lot of these FanDuel fantasy projections or fantasy scores are a little lower than where they should be, as opposed to Prizepicks, because they allow the extra point for a fantasy score off of blocks and steals. So I had to redo all the numbers and calculations for Isaiah Wong just to kind of match it up to Prizepicks and just see where he really ranked. So as I was doing that, I've noticed that he has only missed this number in, let's say, 3 games, because this game against Florida A&M, I think he went over by 0.2. So really just 3 out of his 11 games that he's played. Has he played 11? Yep, 3 out of his 11 games this year, he's only missed this line. And even a lot of times is against small competition, he's dominated. But the reason why I like this matchup for him is because St. Francis, they are one of the worst teams in the country at keeping opponents off the free throw line. So they're ranked 300 and let's see. So yeah, so they are ranked in the country. They are ranked 200 and no, my bad, wrong side. They are here it is. They're ranked 322nd in the country in defensive free throw attempt rate. So they foul a whole lot. So that's good news for him. Easy free points at the line. He's a good free throw shooter. As we can see, he shoots 79% from a free throw line, which is really, really good. He also averages 4 free throws a game. So I think that's a really good spot for him. And then as well, as I looked into his turnovers, he doesn't really turn the ball over too much. He's had a couple games where he's turned it over 3 or more times. But other than that, it's pretty much just twice or just once. And then also to kind of amass the turnovers, if he was to have turnovers today, he's a pretty good steal person. So he gets a steal in just about every game except for 2 games where he hasn't recorded a steal. But in one of those games that he didn't record a steal, he's also had a block to make up for that. So I really like his steal potential. But another thing about St. Francis is that they're not a big aggressive team as far as defensively. So they don't try to force turnovers. So that should be a good sign for Wong, where he can keep his turnovers down and be able to just produce in the other stat categories as far as like points, rebounds, and assists and steals. So I think this is a really good spot for him, as well as you can hedge his fantasy score with his points, because I think he should go for at least 20 points against them easily. But the biggest risk I think in this matchup too is blowout potential. They go up big early in the first half. They might look to sit him, around the 10-minute mark of the second half. So kind of be cautious with that. But other than that, I really, really like this matchup for him. I project him to get like 30 fantasy points or fantasy score, as well as anywhere between 16 to 20 points today. So yeah, so those are my picks today, and I'll kind of go back through them for you. So I have Julian Strawther over 7.5 rebounds, Julian Strawther over 22.5 PRA, and Mark Sears over 3 assists, as well as Isaiah Wong over 27.5 fantasy score, and Isaiah Wong over 15.5 points. And then, as I stated earlier, the Mark Sears, you can hedge him too if you want to do like an all hedge card with let's say Wong's points, Sears points, and Strawther's PRA. You can do that, as well as you can do another card with just Strawther's rebounds. You can do Sears assists, as well as Wong's fantasy score. You can have both of those in separate cards, so to kind of hedge. And then you can, if they do well, you both can hit. But just to give yourself that that hedge potential to be able to make some type of profit out of these early matchups, to be able to have some spending money for the later slate of games. So that's it for the early slate. I'll be back a little later on today with some later games that happen in like the mid block of the afternoon, so like the 3 o'clock through 5 o'clock slate. I'll probably have some picks up for that, so just be on the lookout for that. But like, comment, and subscribe, and you guys tell me in the comments what you guys are going with for today's slate. I appreciate you guys, and see you guys a little later on.